Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on the YouTube account and we're going to be breaking down the top 10 heroes for a plus 40 signature item. Now there's a lot out there when it comes to signature items and really the performance of heroes specifically when it comes to damage dealers. You're going to add not only another ability with the plus 40, but you are also going to add additional damage. And I want to run through the heroes from number 10 to number 1, just showing you kind of the priority, starting with our first one, which is Skyland. Now Skyland with a plus 40 signature item really does make a difference in this hero. Like I said, when you're adding in insight, you have physical pierce and you have crit as a damage dealer within AFK Arena, it is going to be a big priority. And then when you start looking at what the plus 40 signature item actually does, for every 2 seconds an enemy remains within range of the Phantom Dragon's lance, permanently takes 15% more damage from Skyland. Now this is only going to be specifically for Skyland. Maximum damage boost from this effect is 75%. So Skyland is going to be doing 75% more damage to the targets that are within that radius, that little radius every 2 seconds of that Phantom's Dragon Lance, meaning he is going to be doing a lot more damage. This is going to amplify the damage. Now, I also got questions when it comes to a plus 50 signature item. I do not advise it, and I never would build a hero, and I never have built a hero to a plus 50 signature item. It is way too expensive to do. The cost is not there. Getting a couple more heroes from a 30 to a 40 versus getting one hero to a 50 just makes sense. If you're a Kraken, if you're a whale, go ahead and build the 50s. But when you start getting to this level, it is so super and so silly expensive when it comes to building these out. Now, the next hero that we look at, and this of course is one that I built out, which is Knox getting to that plus 40 signature item. Again, when you start thinking of utility in the hero, when he marks, if the target is a max stacks or dispirited, Knox deals extra damage to 100% of the attack rating and increases the damage the target takes by 10% for an increase of 60%. When you start looking at the teams that Knox is being run in, especially with the Slumbering Seal, if you have a target in there and a target that is marked, that is taking a 60% damage increase. That is going to take down the target that much quicker. That's the reason, even looking outside of the Slumbering Seal formations, Knox does incredibly well because he is going to range or really ramp up the top end damage that you're doing within AFK Arena. So a couple of heroes that we kind of looked at and were kind of questionable when I know the plus 30, plus 40 signature item comes up. Even thinking of like a Lava Tune or a Misha or even like a Randall. Overall, Knox does take a little bit of a precedence when it comes to a 40, just for the simple fact, utility-wise, still falling into that SS tier, but also looking at the plus 40, being able to amplify the top end damage that they are going to take does make a big difference. Now looking at, and I believe this is number 7, I believe this is maybe number 8, but is Leica. So Leica, we did build to a plus 40. Now she's very unique how she enters battle, but looking at her plus 40 increases the attribute bonus for sequential instances of star power to 40, but changes the maximum enchantment to 5. This is a big difference because you can see this goes from 10 down to 5 with the amount of damage that she's doing with the power. Now looking at where she is tier list wise, now this was kind of interesting because she is a little bit and starting to fall down the tier list a little bit when it comes to the utility overall. Not a huge priority, but still falls in the very top end of the SS utility and getting the plus 40. Not only that, is looking up here, crit damage amplification, physical pierce. They built her to do damage. Now I know as far as formations, we're seeing her kind of in niche formations, not using her as much, but honestly, when you start looking at the hero, when you start looking at the ability, still does incredibly well in formations. And if you have her built out versus not having her built out, it really does make a big difference in formations. Now getting into, and of course the next one, which is another Draconic hero, which I'm going to have to go in here with Leviathan. Now when it comes to Leviathan, even though he is a tank, this is huge. When an allied hero is affected by Ocean's Blessing, the attack rating and defense rating will be permanently increased by 4 seconds, or 4%. Every second for a max increase of 70%. Think about that. It is a permanent increase of 4% every second for a max of 70%. Now, is he a tank? Yes, he does fall into the tanking classification. Is that a very massive support aspect? Absolutely. This is where we kind of see the overlap and the utility. So when we start looking at where is Leviathan, Cursed Realm, he's being used. Nightmare Corridor, he's being used. Treasure Scramble, absolutely being used. A big priority in the Treasure Scramble. Anywhere that you can put him in a formation with a plus 40 signature item, getting and permanently increasing the attack and the defense. Now think about it for a minute. When it comes to the attack, a majority of heroes in AFK Arena skills and abilities are based on attack. Even looking at the defense rating and thinking of a hero like Misha in the same formation, which yes, they are run together, you're going to amplify Misha's defense rating by 70%, which again is kind of crazy, making him and coming in at number 6. I think I have the count again, but coming in at number 6, absolutely Leviathan with that plus 40 signature item. If you built him out, of course, you got to build them up and use your draconic, or yeah, your draconic insignias to build them up. But this is a massive signature item. And again, tier list wise, he is still coming in the very, very top end of the SS tier with Leviathan. Then we get into the dimensional hero, and this is one a plus 40 is required, which is Marcil. Big reason for that is damage. When you look at the formations where Marcil is present, she is the best in slot damage dealer for a lot of different formations. And the plus 40 makes a big difference because, again, looking at what she brings when you start leveling up this signature item, crit damage amplification, both of those are huge and huge in conjunction. Crit, of course, is going to allow her to do more critical strikes, giving the double damage. Crit damage amplification is going to raise the cap on the crit that she's doing. Again, kind of goes hand in hand. Then when you look at what she gets from this, Magical Pierce boost for each stack of Black Magic Knowledge is increased to 5 points. Remember, when you start looking at Magical Pierce, it is 1 point gives you 1%. So that is giving and increasing this by 5 points or 5% every time. And then even when you look at the plus 30, this Black Magic Knowledge can now stack 12 times. So think about this. You can stack her Black Magic Knowledge 12 times. Every time that she gets one single stack, each stack is going to give her 5 points of Magical Pierce. That's a ton. That adds up very, very quickly. And then again, when you look at the Magical Pierce, you're increasing the amount of damage she's doing, that top end damage with Magical Pierce, putting on the crit damage amplification. It just makes her damage broken and really go through the roof, which is the reason why she's coming in at number 5. Makes a really, really big difference. Now, of course, another one that we look at, and still relatively early, but we have been building her out, and we have been building her out to that plus 40 signature item. If I can remember where we put her, is right here. Mira. So overall, early tier lists are showing her in all different formations. We are also seeing her in the utility tier list being right at the very top tier of the SSS tier, which again, priority for a plus 40 signature item. E65 for the engraving, so definitely have to get some higher engraving on there. But overall, when you start looking at the combination of a hero like this, it seems like, in what I'm understanding, again, it's very early since we've had her release, is if you do not have the plus 40 signature item on her, it doesn't really work without it. So the plus 40 signature item, allied heroes that are affected by Luminous Surge or Radiant Zenith, which most allies are going to be affected by either one, will not take damage equal to 20 or access 20% of the max health from a single strike. Burst teams shut down in their entirety, and they will deal 25% more damage to enemy units that are affected. So now you have a team, or you're counteracting burst teams in their entirety, and you are dealing 25% more damage to enemy units that are affected by Wither, which again, when you're building her up, Wither is on a couple different targets. This is, again, a huge part of her kit, which is the reason why, again, a lot of players are saying, if you do not have the plus 40 signature item, which is down here, the first time an allied hero is affected by Luminous Surge or Radiant Zenith uses their ultimate, the attack rating boost from the effect will be increased by 100%. Think about that. You are getting a 100% attack boost, which is kind of crazy. Burst damage goes through the roof with her because, of course, even thinking like Nightmare Corridor formations, but we are starting to see her in Cursed Realm formations. We're starting to see her in Treasure Scramble formations. A lot of players did also mention or have really noted that she's pretty squishy when it comes to the ability to die. But overall, if you can keep her alive, if she's not bursted down because of the ability she has at the plus 30 and the plus 40, makes a big difference. And they also note that when it comes to engraving, she has to have the 60 engraving. The Surge is upgraded to Radiant Zenith, extending the duration to 28 seconds and preventing the attack rating boost from decaying for the first 8 seconds. This means they're getting a massive attack rating boost. That is not going to decay for the first 8 seconds. So you're going to be maximizing the damage in a very, very short stint. And then it is going to start eroding that attack rating boost. But again, burst damage, where you think about a couple different places, especially Treasure Scramble, if you can burn down some teams, and even the Nightmare Corridor, where burst damage is going to make a big difference. She is really, really big, coming in at number 5. Number 4, we have the Awakened version of Aurelia. She is another one where signature item damage, crit damage, physical pierce, huge right there, the combination of those two. Number of slashes increased by 2. This means with the number of its slashes going from 1 to 2, the slashes are doing double damage essentially, and you also have the ability to crit on the slashes that you're doing in there, really putting her damage through the roof. And when it comes to utility tier list, she is still one of the absolute heroes that are used everywhere in their entirety. That you do want to build. It makes a really big difference in the amount of damage that this hero is putting out with a plus 40. I know, again, utility-wise, she is a little bit over a year old as far as the Awakened heroes, but we are still seeing her used in pretty much every single game mode that we do have within AFK Arena. Then we get into our top 3. Now, coming in at number 3 is Aurelia. Now, Aurelia with the plus 40 signature item. A lot of players say it's not required, but it is huge. Duration of the Autumn Harvest Zones is increased to 6 seconds. And every time that one appears, Aurelia's attack rating is increased by 8, up to a maximum of 80. She is probably one of the really top buffers that we have right now in AFK Arena. That is one of the reasons why we build her out. Because remember, the Autumn Harvest Zones right here, allies within the Autumn Harvest Zone gain 30 points of buffer and dissolve. Then it goes to 40. Then you're going to have an extended duration right down here. And the attack rating that she does get and really goes into the rest of the skills that she has as a hero. Again, raising the effectiveness. Now, is it required? No. Is it going to be super imperative to have? In my opinion, again, thinking of the tier list, yes, it is one to build and one to build before a lot of other ones in here, just for the simple fact that this is going to make a big difference. Utility-wise, recommended builds, priority builds, do put her at a plus 40 signature item, which really does make a big difference. And then the last two are very easy. Coming in at number 2 is Liberta. When you want utility, when you want the ability to really excel when it comes to AFK Arena, increases the health recovery per second for Blessed Orbs, and also the damage dealt per second by Punishing Orbs, raising, and really the damage that Liberta does is just kind of broken. Even thinking of course, the number 1 that's coming in a minute, but utility-wise, used everywhere. Not only does Liberta do an incredible amount of damage, also does an incredible amount of healing. We know that he is support, but overall continuous damage and healing when you build him out. Utility-wise, still scores an absolute perfect score, meaning being used in everywhere in AFK Arena. And then, of course, the final one, which is your primary and your number 1 build, which is Envy. So Envidiel is absolutely the priority number 1 within AFK Arena. If you're newer to the game, this is the one you're going to build, and you do want to build them up. Again, recommended to a plus 40 signature item. Mark of Corruption deals 100% more explosive damage to the marked enemy. Guys, you are doubling the damage that he is doing with this Mark of Corruption, which is kind of crazy. If you want to see him, if you want to get him to that very high top end best in slot damage that we're seeing with this hero, it is absolutely going to require a plus 40 signature item. And again, with a lot of the damage dealers, him looking at Liberta, thinking of Aurelia, when you build them out and when you build them out to that plus 40 signature item, it makes a big difference as a damage dealer when you're starting to maximize the damage in there. And it really does help carry with these heroes. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.